各位来宾、女士们、先生们，大家好！非常高兴与大家相聚在这里，和云端共同出席2020欧洲伙伴媒体合作云论坛。首先，我要代表主办方中国中央广播电视总台，向出席论坛的嘉宾表示最热烈的欢迎。
I'm Jonathan Betts alongside Liu Xin with CGT, and we are so glad you're with us today.
Yes, let me introduce the theme of this forum, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the European Media Partners Cooperation Online Forum 2020. We would like to extend our deepest appreciation for your continued support all along and for your being here, especially during this pandemic.
We've invited you, our European counterparts, along with our Chinese colleagues, to discuss the responsibilities of the media, especially in light of the challenges posed by the pandemic. The theme of our forum today is Mutual Trust Dialogue for Win-Win Cooperation.
Let's remind ourselves that this year is the 45th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and the European Union. During the recent China-Europe Leaders Summit, President Xi Jinping put 4 principles to further boost bilateral ties, namely peaceful coexistence, openness and cooperation, multilateralism and dialogue and consultation. I think they're fitting for media cooperation as well.
Certainly in these days. We also want to extend a very warm welcome to all of you by the event's organizer, China Media Group. We are looking forward to working together, so let's get started.
让我们用热烈的掌声，有请中国中央广播电视总台台长兼总编辑盛海雄先生致辞。Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Shen Haixiong, President and Editor-in-Chief of China Media Group.
尊敬的各位同行、朋友们，大家好！非常高兴和大家相聚在云端，就中欧媒体合作分享观点、交换意见。这里我代表中国中央广播电视总台，向各位同行表示诚挚的问候和良好的祝愿。如果没有这场突如其来的疫情，我希望大家能够到初冬的北京，围炉共话，畅所欲言。 人类社会在经历着100年以来最严重的传染病的大流行，中国在经过艰苦卓绝的努力之后取得了疫情防控重大的战略性成果。正因为如此，我们对疫情带给各国人民的冲击和不幸感同身受。我们没有忘记，在中国抗击疫情最严重的时候，路透社、法新社、欧洲广播联盟。 欧洲新闻交换联盟等媒体同行纷纷致函总台，送来最真诚的问候和宝贵的支持。当疫情在欧洲地区蔓延的时候，我们也十分关心大家的安危。我也代表总台发函给各家媒体同行，介绍中国在疫情防控方面取得的点滴成绩和我们在宣传报道上的一系列的做法。 送去真诚的问候，宏愿传书，我们彼此的交流进一步增强了感情，凝聚了共识，深化了合作。很多同行都表示，疫情期间，可靠的新闻、权威的信息无比重要，更能反映媒体的社会责任，更能凸显我们双方 伙伴关系的价值和水平，对此我也十分认同。最近，我分别和西班牙、意大利驻华大使进行了会谈。我们都认为，媒体在增进互信、深化合作和推动共赢方面，可以发挥更大的作用，做出更大的贡献。这也是本次论坛所要传递的信息。在这里我愿意提出 3点建议：一是深化抗疫报道的合作。面对100年以来最严重的突发公共卫生事件，中央广播电视总台及时、客观、充分地报道了中国和其他国家疫情防控的进展，全面介绍了中国疫情防控的做法和经验，向国际媒体同行提供了多语种的新闻素材 和直播信号得到了普遍的称赞。面对疫情，中欧媒体比以往任何时候 更需要携手并肩，助力国际社会更好地应对疫情带来的多重挑战。今天，我们将共同发表加强媒体合作联合声明，承诺做负责任的公共信息传播者，以实际行动继续携手应对当前和未来的挑战，推动中欧全面战略伙伴关系稳定健康的发展，助力人类卫生健康共同体的建设。二是要推动媒体间人员互访交流。近年来，中央广播电视总台每年都会参加欧洲广播联盟新闻交换年会，欧洲媒体也积极应邀参加总台 CCTV 全球媒体峰会及国际视频通讯社的全球视频媒体论坛。总台与欧洲媒体同行在节目的合拍、联合制作等方面的合作日益密切。不久前结束的中共19届五中全会规划了中国未来5年的发展蓝图。中国正践行新发展理念，构建新发展格局。我们真诚地欢迎欧洲媒体伙伴在疫情结束之后多到中国来走访，用手中的镜头，用第一视角报道新时代中国的新气象。三要加强合作机制建设。中央广播电视总台与欧洲地区媒体机构已经建立了良好的新闻共享机制。国际视频通讯社与路透社、法新社、埃菲社、卢萨社等32个欧洲国家的110多家媒体机构签署了新闻合作协议。今天，我们将与路透社共同推出新的合作项目——中国财经视频专线，向全球用户提供权威专业的中国财经新闻素材。我们还将与欧洲新闻交换联盟签署战略合作备忘录，启动欧洲伙伴合作机制，进一步加强在新闻素材、海外报道员、新闻成片定制等方面的合作。朋友们，第75届联合国大会期间，全球170多个国家领导人就抗击疫情、复苏经济、国际秩序演变等进行了讨论。各方普遍认为，多边主义是现有国际秩序的根基和支柱，不应该受到质疑和挑战。上个月 ，RCEP 正式签署，全球最大的自贸区诞生。这是自由贸易的胜利，是多边主义的胜利。中欧在支持和践行多边主义、加强全球抗疫合作，以及共同促进全球经济复苏和应对气候变化等方面，有着广泛的共识和共同利益。我们的共同语言比我们的分歧多得多。中欧媒体间的对话、交流与合作也将迈向更紧密、更深入、更务实的新阶段。我们坚信，没有一个冬天不能逾越，没有一个春天不会到来。只要我们用科学代替谣言，用合作代替隔阂，用理解代替偏见，用信心代替恐惧，我们终将迎来春暖花开。我期待在北京和各位相见，谢谢大家。
Thank you so much, Mr. Shin. Well, let's turn now to Reuters. It's been a long-time friend and partner of CMG. Its financial news plays a critical role in guiding entire industries. So next, let's welcome Mr. Michael Friedenberg, president of Reuters.
Please welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Friedenberg, and I'm the president of Reuters. I'm delighted to be giving this virtual address and would like to thank CMG for the opportunity to speak today. I've been invited to talk about the role of media during and beyond the pandemic, and would like to share some observations on the current and future state of our industry. The world has changed dramatically since my last visit to China in 2019. Most critically, the global COVID-19 pandemic continues to shape our daily lives as the race for a vaccine continues on. In times like these, trusted news is more important than ever. Globally, news organizations have a responsibility to provide accurate information to help people make smart personal and professional decisions. At Reuters, we are delighted to have been able to supply CMG with trusted global news throughout the crisis, which we hope complements the output from CMG's own newsrooms. News organizations are feeling the impact just like other industries and businesses. In addition, there are other global changes we have to respond to. Geopolitical factors such as the rise of economic nationalism and the growth in e-commerce. Societal changes like the shift to mobile, the focus on sustainability, and the global equality movement. And technological changes embodied in the fundamental shift from a content to commerce and now cognitive-based web. These changes have converged with the pandemic to cause profound disruption in the media industry in a number of ways. Our business models are challenged as platforms dominate digital advertising and become the new gatekeepers of information. New technologies like AI change content creation, data gathering, and monetization. We're seeing further consolidation amongst media companies to achieve scale and efficiencies. We feel the threat of commoditization as the digital ecosystem blurs the lines between publishers and broadcasters, professional and individual, and UGC creators. And we all face what has been called a crisis of trust as misinformation proliferates, including false or misleading information about COVID-19. Our organizations have to adapt to these challenges if we are to thrive. So how should we do that? First, we have to build trust. As our editor-in-chief, Steve Adler, recently wrote, that in order to be trusted, we must be trustworthy. That means fair, independent, high-quality journalism, which is even more critical in times like these. We should double down on helping the world share reliable information by considering not just the creation and distribution of content, but also the verification of that very content. Next, we have to relentlessly innovate and reimagine our customer experience. This means investing in cutting-edge back-end technology, improving products based on customer experience and feedback, and controlling our distribution channels as much as possible. Put simply, investing in quality content and leveraging distribution channels, including the full range of digital subscriptions, audio, video, pictures, data, and events, will help media companies grow. Simultaneously, we should transform our business and find new ways to diversify. This includes embracing the potential opportunities of AI to strengthen journalism and build new revenue streams, building data journalism, and in the world of the cognitive web, seeing the trillions of machines as potential customers. Next, we must invest in our people. They are our greatest asset and should be nurtured and protected. Their safety is paramount, particularly when hostility towards journalists is all too common today. We should also make sure we have a diverse workforce that accurately represents the world we report on and create an inclusive culture. Our organization should be places where people do their best work by being provided the right environment, tools, and support. Finally, we must recognize the power of partnerships in this new media ecosystem. Of course, there will always be healthy competition within our industry, but we need to forge strong, long-lasting alliances that benefit us and our customers. This can take the form of collaborative journalism, industry coalitions, new commercial business opportunities, content sharing, or shared platforms. Our entire industry is facing the same challenges. We have an opportunity by coming together, work in strategic partnership of ensuring all boats rise with the tide. And we remain fully committed to providing you with fast, reliable, and trusted news from around the world. COVID-19 has profoundly disrupted our lives and businesses, but by working together, I believe we can come out of this pandemic and 2020 even stronger. I sincerely hope all our colleagues at CMG and news organizations from around the world remain safe and well. Thank you, and I look forward to a very bright 2021.
Well, thanks to Mr. Friedenberg. Okay, so let's now talk about the agenda here. The forum is divided into the following parts. We have the keynote speeches, along with launch ceremonies for China Business Video, European media partners, and the program Biz Today. That will be followed by an online panel discussion and statements by CMG and European media. We're certainly all looking forward to that.
Okay, so without much ado, let's welcome Class Editorial SPA's Editor-in-Chief and CEO, Mr. Paolo Panerai, to give a speech.
È un vero piacere e un onore essere stato invitato da China Media Group a partecipare a un convegno così importante per la cooperazione tra i media di più paesi. Voglio, a nome di tutto il nostro gruppo Classe Editori, che da molti anni crede nella cooperazione con i media cinesi, ringraziare per questa opportunità, in particolare il Presidente Ministro Shen. La fiducia e la collaborazione fra Italia e Cina in generale è confermata dalla storia, Marco Polo eccetera, ma anche dal recente atto, non lontanissimo, della firma del memorandum per la via della seta, firmato da il Ministro degli Esteri italiano e unico paese, l'Italia, del G7 ad aver firmato un tale accordo. Ma non ci può essere fiducia e collaborazione piena se non c'è informazione reciproca e chiara. Quindi il ruolo dei media è fondamentale per le relazioni fra i paesi e i popoli. Specialmente in questo momento è solo l'informazione reciproca e chiara può aiutare Cina, Italia ed Europa e il resto del mondo a collaborare per la ripresa economica e il miglioramento della qualità della vita dei rispettivi popoli. E questo è un nostro forte convincimento e infatti Classe Editori, una media company con quotidiani, canali televisivi, radio, società di analisi economica e finanziaria e anche una società di rating, la più antica, Standard Ethics, che è la prima in Europa per il rating sulla sostenibilità. Per questo da vari anni collaboriamo con soddisfazione, in particolare con China Media Group. Insieme abbiamo prodotto il programma andato in simultanea in Italia, in Cina e nel mondo con il canale globale di China Media Group dal titolo Esperienze da e per la Cina al tempo del Covid. Abbiamo coprodotto documentario sui 50 anni di relazioni diplomatiche tra Italia e Cina, che sarà presto in onda. Abbiamo mandato in onda sui nostri canali, a cominciare da classe CNBC, la serie I 100 volti della cultura cinese. Abbiamo anche sui nostri quotidiani il focus Cina-Italia. Vogliamo però fare di più e quindi, sia pure in maniera irrituale, mi permetto di dire al Presidente Shen che sarebbe bello fare una trasmissione regolare sul Best from China e Best from Italy. L'impulso dato dal Presidente Xi Jinping alla cooperazione, all'informazione sulla via della seta è di straordinaria portata e avrà grandi frutti. Il Presidente Shen sa benissimo tutto ciò e infatti ha promosso questo convegno proprio per sviluppare ulteriormente la cooperazione fra i maggiori media del mondo. Nella logica del multilateralismo, ciò è ancora più necessario che durante la globalizzazione. Ora, grazie anche all'innovazione digitale, i media hanno il dovere di far conoscere le opportunità e i vantaggi per tutto il globo della collaborazione anche mediatica con la Cina. Dice un vecchio proverbio italiano: se due persone non si conoscono, non potranno mai collaborare. Il dovere dei media a livello globale è di promuovere la conoscenza reciproca. Da questo non potranno che derivare vantaggi per tutti. Oggi la Cina guida lo sviluppo digitale, i media saranno sempre più digitali, interconnessi. Sono personalmente convinto che la collaborazione con China Media Group sia una grande opportunità per classe editori e per tutti i media del mondo che faranno altrettanto. Il nostro lavoro comune, anche attraverso la sezione China Media Group in Italia, è molto fluida, molto in evoluzione e positiva. Grazie a tutti voi che avete avuto la pazienza di ascoltarmi. Classe Editori è aperta a qualsiasi collaborazione con anche i media che cooperano come noi con China Media Group, perché anche la comunicazione deve essere multilaterale. Grazie Presidente Schenner di aver promosso questo importantissimo convegno.
Let's turn now to Michael Peters. He is the CEO and president of the executive board of Euronews. That is a designated media partner of the European Union and is, by the way, the highest rated international news channel in continental Europe. It's committed to delivering objective and impartial information to the public. So, Mr. Peters, the stage is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to be able to address the 2020 European Partners Media Cooperation Online Forum, alongside many distinguished speakers and guests. Unfortunately, given the global situation, we cannot meet in person, but I do hope we will have an opportunity to do so soon. I would like to thank the organizers of these very topical events, and with a special attention to Mr. Shen Haisheng, President of CMG. The global pandemic has been a stark reminder that increasingly we are facing common challenges. And that common challenges need common solutions. As global interdependence grows, I believe that media companies cannot work in silos anymore. Across the world, media groups have been badly hit by the economic consequences of the pandemic, while at the same time, our mission and duty to inform has rarely been so important. There is an appetite for established, trusted media. Every day, I see firsthand the challenge for a newsroom to deliver quality, fact-based news in real time to what seems to be an increasingly anxious global audience. So I would like to take a moment to pay a tribute to journalists across the globe. For this hardship, not only do I believe that we can recover, but I also believe that we can learn to do better. These unprecedented times have given us an opportunity to press the reset button, to rethink our approach, to adapt and, dare I hope, thrive in a world that we now call the new normal. I am convinced that the new normal for media must consist for more collaboration between media groups. I am particularly aware of this, and as collaboration and synergies are what Euronews is all about. It is the very idea on which it was born nearly 3 decades ago, when the European Union brought together broadcasters from across Europe to create what is still today a unique European media offering. Over the years, we have grown, our business model has changed, we have welcomed new investors, but we have never compromised on the European ideal of collaboration on which we were founded. Thanks to these efforts, 3 decades later, we stand as the leading international news channel in Europe. We have developed 12 distinct cross-platform language editions and are now distributed in 400 million homes and 160 countries, including many in Asia. We have also gone the extra mile by creating, a few years ago, a Pan-African news channel, which broadcasts 24/7 in English and French across all the world continents. An offer which is unique today in the African media landscape. and we are gradually launching branded affiliates. In the last 2 years alone, we have created Euronews Albania, Euronews Serbia, and Euronews Georgia. Again, the latter were born out of solid partnerships with local media or telecom groups. Our fundamental mission to empower people to form their own opinion is at the heart of all our operations. And how do we achieve this? By fact-based journalism and presenting a diversity of viewpoints. This belief is so ingrained in our identity that we have made it our slogan, Euronews, all views. This is an extremely good principle on which, I believe, we can also forge alliances. Europe and China share common issues. As I said, but we also have different cultures with different traditions and ways of thinking. Citizens of the EU are eager to find out more about China, and I'm sure Chinese citizens are interested in knowing more about Europe. This is why I'm proud that Euronews has played a part and will continue in the near future to play a part in fostering a better understanding between our cultures. I am delighted that we'll be doing this by two media groups coming together. 2 years ago, we worked with CGTN for the 2018 EU-China Tourism Year, where we exchanged programs on travel and culture over a period of 9 months. This year, as 2020 marks the 45th anniversary of the establishment of China-EU diplomatic ties, we will be working with CMG International Communication and Planning Bureau to produce content on China-EU trade and economic ties, including a focus on new trends in travel and tourism. Fostering a better mutual understanding of our cultures is always a good place to start building strong relationships. And this is just the beginning. I look forward to deepening our collaboration with CMG and other media groups as we play our parts in building a world where the new normal, hopefully with all our hearts, becomes the better normal.
Many thanks to Mr. Peters and Euronews. We all look forward to better cooperation between the two sides. Now, next, we're going to enter the launch ceremony of the China Business Video, or CBV. Exciting indeed. Now, CCTV has a news video agency that's called CCTV Plus. So together with Reuters, they're jointly launching this financial news content, which is called China Business Video. So it will provide Reuters customers with financial news footages from China that's provided straight by China Media Group, so that there will be better information sharing and better media cooperation between the two sides.
A critical partnership. So here is the official launch video of China Business Video.
中国中央广播电视总台国际视频通讯社与路透社正式开启中国财经视频专线，在这里您将获取总台最权威专业的中国财经信息。
CMG and CCTV Plus are important clients for Reuters, and our partnership continues to be a priority. This month, we started to distribute CCTV Plus China business videos on Reuters Connect. We started to distribute CCTV Plus China business videos on Reuters Connect.
Today, CCTV Plus will launch another interesting project that is called a Strategic Memorandum of Understanding with European News Exchange, or ENEX, and that will signal the official launch of the European Media Partners, or EMP. he. Now let's welcome Mr. Teng Yunping, who is president of CCTV Plus, and Mr. Adrian Wells, managing director of INEX. Let's take a look.
The program Biz Today is being released to provide European media partners with tailored Chinese and European financial news that is jointly created by CMG, CCTV Plus, and INEX.
The warmest congratulations, and we thank all of our guests for witnessing these important moments together with us.
So during this pandemic, we have certainly all seen some profound changes, a lot of insecurity, instability, but as two major forces and markets in the world, strengthening cooperation between China and the European Union should inject more synergy into the international community to allow us to fight the virus and restore the economy.
Absolutely. So under these circumstances, how can media from China and Europe promote trust between people on both sides and through multilateral cooperation to achieve win-win results? Please welcome my colleague Wang Guan and guests from China and Europe to join an online panel discussion with the theme Multilateral Cooperation and Mutual Trust, Common Challenges and Win-Win Future. Wang Guan, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Xin. With the year 2020 coming to an end, it is safe to say that this year hasn't turned out the way we expected. We're in the midst of the second wave of a global pandemic, the worst public health crisis in decades. And the global GDP will unfortunately grow at the slowest pace since the Great Recession. And we ourselves, the media professionals, sometimes our credibility and responsibility are put into question. So in these challenging and difficult times, how can media inform the public and report news, tell stories in a responsible and credible manner? And how can we, journalists and media professionals, fight misinformation and disinformation? And how can media on both sides of China and Europe help with mutual understanding of the two peoples? Now, to discuss all these questions, who better to talk to than seasoned journalists and media professionals themselves? Let me introduce our guests for today. I'm very pleased to introduce to all of you Wang Lu, Deputy Director of the China Media Group's English Language Global Programming Center, and online by our European friends, Adrian Wells, Managing Director of European News Exchange, David Wingham, Head of News and TV at RTL Germany, Eric Kremer, Vice President of Distribution at France 24, and last but not least, Oscar Campillo, Director of Communications and Institutional Relations at Grupo Onsenco. Welcome to all of you guys. It's a real pleasure to have all of you with us. Director Wang, may I start with you? This has been quite a year, right?
Yes.
We have COVID-19 pandemic. We had, the trend of deglobalization picking up, economic slowdown. What do you make of all these events, and especially its impact on the media industry that you're in?
Personally, I think the year 2020 feels different from previous years because it doesn't matter where you are. news that made international headlines were no longer about some faraway people, faraway land. The disputes between the world's two largest economies, for instance, have affected many third country governments, businesses, and individuals. The fallout from the COVID-19 crisis, in particular, is reaching every aspect of people's lives worldwide. Nobody is immune, no business is immune. The media industry itself has been severely impacted as well. But at the same time, the pandemic also offers us an opportunity to grow the media industry. Communications platforms have proven indispensable. More than any other industry, we have kept human society functioning through the perilous times. Now, one of the most obvious trends is the growing dependence on digital media. Now, it's estimated that 60% of the world's population are online, and 2/3 of adult internet users in China told a media survey that they definitely spend way more time on social media than before during the crisis. But while providing direct access to an unprecedented amount of information and content, I think social media platforms at the same time may amplify questionable information. I'll give you an example. A report by the Australia Institute identified among tweets over 10 days, a mere 10 days, over 5,700 accounts that coordinated way more than 6,500 times to spread misinformation and disinformation about the coronavirus for either commercial or political purposes. And coordinated spreading of the China bioweapon conspiracy theory is estimated to have made more than 5 million impressions on Twitter users. So you see, while the demand for content has skyrocketed, the responsibility on our shoulders is even greater than ever. Consumer trust, according to an Edelman survey, grew significantly on traditional media. And I think in a post-pandemic era, we should do more to promote professionalism in information and communications.
Sure, sure. It is our mandate to bridge the gap of understanding, but unfortunately these days, it's not that we don't have enough information, there's too much of them, and sometimes with disinformation as well. David, if I can turn to you from Germany, what's your understanding of what's happening this year? What do you make of all these events for 2020, and especially its impact on the media industry? You know, talk to us from the vantage point of your organization.
Of course, 2020 has been a very challenging year for every business worldwide, and so it has been for the media industry. First of all, I mean, to make sure that we can still work, that all our employees are healthy, that we have to make sure that they can work in a safe work environment, and on the other hand, to make sure that we get our message across, that we can provide our users and our viewers with true information, and that we make sure that online disinformation doesn't get the point like we just heard. So it's very important for us to make sure that we as a trustworthy news organization are around, and that we make sure that online disinformation doesn't get the overhand. So, of course, it has been a challenging year for us, but it also regained a lot of trust with our viewers, because they know that when they come to us, that they get what they need. They need information, and they don't need anybody who's just trying to gain momentum.
Right, Adrian, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Traditional media brands, those that have been established for many years in the commercial or the state sector, have seen a sort of a bounce back in terms of people, you know, coming to them for news and information. And you're right also that digital does provide an opportunity. And I guess the thing that has to catch up is that the digital world is less regulated than the broadcasters world, And you've seen platforms like fake news investing in anti-fake news investigations. You've seen Twitter flagging content that is questionable. And the traditional role of the journalist was always to sort of give both sides of the story. You know, on the one hand, you have this, and on the other hand, you have that, and you let people decide. Actually, that probably isn't good enough these days, because you have people actively going out to deceive, to lie, to cause disruption in the information sphere. And so the question for broadcasters and for publishers is, how do we respond to that? The vaccination issue is a classic example where science, common sense, all of the information suggests that vaccination is a good thing for our population to fight the pandemic. And yet you've got very, very many voices on the anti-vaccination side who believe that in all sorts of conspiracy theories. And should we as broadcasters and publishers give that opinion, which we would traditionally do, and let people make up their mind? Well, probably not. Complicated area. Is that right or wrong? So this is a new area for us, and one that's going to present difficulties and challenge our traditional way of working as journalists, I think.
So Eric, what have been some of the biggest challenges the year 2020 posed for you and your network?
Well, probably the biggest challenge was to be able to keep working. Like media industry, like other sectors of the economy, has learned a lot and is still learning from this crisis. The behavior of our audience has changes. On our side, we had to quickly adapt our working habits or mode of production in order to produce and broadcast the channel 24/7 with the same level of quality. That's important to insist on that. We had to provide the same level of quality as usual. A large part of us had and are still have to work remotely. I'm doing now. We change our mode of exchanging and talking to each other. It is certain that we have learned how to adapt in an emergency to a new environment and how to continue to deliver reliable information with more limited resources as well. I believe finally that this hasty adaptation have helped us to become more efficient. And I hope that we should benefit that in the future for other crises, which I hope that will never happen, but I'm not sure of that.
Right, Oscar, in Spain, good to have you with us. How do you look at the challenges as well as opportunities, perhaps, you know, presented by COVID and the year 2020?
The COVID crisis has reinforced the importance of the role of media, and it's also convinced the public of the need for truthful information. But the pandemic has also forced us to work in extremely difficult circumstances. And if we add to this the financial crisis, which began in 2008, 2009, then Spain is a country that has been struggling with the consequences of that over the last decade. So that has been an additional problem. And there's been a decrease in sales and advertising revenue, which has forced us to develop faster than we might otherwise have done everything to do with digital media. So at present, our potential audience, our potential readership is bigger than ever, but we have to convince our potential customers that it might be worth paying for the information they receive in order to ensure that that information is true. So we're in the process of considering the viability of putting up paywalls for access to our information. And therefore, it's extremely important that serious media organizations or media organizations that believe that they have the capacity and the duty to broadcast truthful news. It's extremely important that we all work together and cooperate as much as possible in order to achieve this goal.
Right, truthful, credible, consistent news coverage is really what is required of us. It is the mandate for all news media outlets out there. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about China-Europe relations, Director Wang. You know, I've talked to so many experts about the future of globalization. They told me they're worried, even if COVID is gone and there is a Biden administration in the US, globalization will not be the same or the one as we know it. So how do you see the future of globalization, and especially the role China and the European Union can play in this process? And what can we, media professionals, do to contribute to this process?
Almost all European policymakers see multilateral cooperation as essential to their interests. And I would like to say this is the same for China. Multilateralism and globalization are the common language of China and Europe. The two sides, there's no fundamental strategic conflicts between the two sides. Economic and trade ties enjoy broad prospects and great potential. We always believe that cooperation between China and Europe far outweighs competition. There's so many areas of common concern, climate change, economic recovery, green development, digital economy, medicine, public health, the list goes on. I think through cooperation, China and Europe can lead a new round of globalization and provide a lot of global public goods for the benefit of the world. Now, against all of that background, I think media plays an indispensable role in transmitting accurate information timely, eliminating misunderstandings, shaping public opinion, and promoting people-to-people exchanges. We definitely should focus more on building consensus rather than amplifying our ideological and political differences. We need to be able to prove ourselves capable of forging partnerships and traveling far together, despite our differences. And I personally am very glad that more and more face-to-face communications are happening between Chinese and European media companies. China Global Television Network, CGTN, for instance, and Germany's NDR are meeting annually to discuss issues facing China-European relations, bringing scholars from both sides to sit down for candid discussions. I believe that the more such viable communication platforms we open, the more likely we'll be able to keep that momentum in the post-pandemic era.
Well said. Adrian, how do you look at the role of media? Don't you think that the two peoples and the two societies can come closer together?
Well, that may be the case. I think there may be a cultural, subtle difference, I guess, from the European media sphere and the Chinese media sphere, in that very definitely those of us who work in European media see ourselves sitting to one side from that area of policy making and formation, even if it's a good thing. Although, you've seen actually broadcasters maybe take a more principled stand on things like sustainability in the environment or on anti-racist movements, there are certain positions which broadcasters and publishers advocate. But probably, those in European media wouldn't take that step further and say, okay, multilateralism is a great idea, let's promote it. There's just a difference of interpretation of how we see our role there. But having said that, of course, I think it's very important that we have exchange, we have cooperation, that we're able to travel to each other's countries. I mean, actually, that's very difficult at the moment. Very difficult for a journalist to sort of do a filming trip to China and vice versa at the moment. Something as basic and as fundamental as that is a problem right now. So I think obviously we have a change of leadership in the United States. We have an American president who is going to be more invested in multinational relationships, and you have explained that China is committed to multilateral relationships. So I think we'll see the media responding to that, and the meetings that perhaps haven't been so important, G7, G20, ASEAN summits, all of these meetings that perhaps have had less importance now over the last 4 years, perhaps we'll see those meetings becoming even more important, and media will follow those meetings perhaps a bit more carefully than we have done in the last 4 years.
Eric and France, how do you look at the cooperation between China and Europe in reshaping and hopefully rebuilding multilateralism?
Well, I would answer like David. I think our role is not to be involved directly into the development of bilateral relations. We are a news channel, so we focus on our mission, and we believe that our role as France Media Monde is limited to providing our audience around the world with free, independent, honest, balanced information produced by professionals. That's our mission, But doing this, we are deeply convinced that the practice of debating ideas, that freedom of speech and the values of democracy supported by France, but not only France, help to improve mutual understanding. And so that can help the bilateral relations as well.
Adrian, you run a very large news agency that produces content about China. Do you think the European media have been covering China in a fair and objective manner? And do you think, of course, the Chinese media have covered Europe in a fair and objective manner? And if not, where is room to grow coming forward?
That's a big question. And lots of different angles to it. I think, with that question, the answer is yes and no. For sure, there are in European or Western media, definitely falls into the trap sometimes of portraying China in a sort of stereotypical way, as Director Wong was talking about, and not seeing the subtleties, not seeing the sophistication, maybe seeing a false picture at times. And of course, on the other hand, definitely European media is very aggressive about wanting to find out really what's going on, the truth about certain situations, and does it in a very aggressive way, which is sometimes runs, at a different speed to perhaps the way that domestic media in China would investigate things. So, you have controversial subjects about the origin of the virus and the timing of the origin of the virus, and these sorts of areas that are definitely controversial and difficult for each side to understand. And while that was happening, you also have these difficulties of travel being restricted because of the health crisis. So on the whole, has European media done a reasonable job? Well, I think it's done a reasonable job, but of course there have been errors. I mean, one thing that I think has been underplayed in the West is the very effective mechanisms within China and the rest of, or many Southeast Asian countries, of combating the virus. I think we probably, in European media, underplayed that, or we haven't seen enough of the detail of how countries like China or South Korea, for example, have tackled the virus to the effect now where you don't have it anymore. And of course, we see numbers going up and up and up in Europe. And what we haven't done well enough, in my view, is to examine exactly how has that been made possible. And could that model have been applied in a European context, and would that have been acceptable to European populations? So that is something I think has been underplayed, underreported, not investigated enough. And whether that's just a product of the fact that we can't move around and do those kind of reports, I'm not sure. But those are the sorts of areas where reporting, could focus and perhaps will focus as we see vaccine rollout develop as a big story.
Right. Eric, how do you see the importance of European news in general and your network, France 24 in particular, in shaping public perception? To what extent have your network, you think, contributed to mutual understanding of the two sides?
Well, I think it is important to say that France Media Monde is an international news media group. International is part of our DNA. There are more than 60 nationalities being represented in the company. I think it makes that the cultural and linguistic diversity within our editorial staff, and not only the editorial staff, makes possible to help mutual understanding, to foster dialogue, to build bridges between people. We have a Chinese newsroom, for our radio RFI. So I think that's important. But I do agree. But in order to promote mutual trust, it is necessary to foster dialogue and provide the key to understanding a world that is constantly moving. To achieve this, a win-win relationship involves, in my view, among other things, reciprocity in access to media of each of us. Just let me give you an example. There are about 50 Chinese TV channels freely available in France through pay TV operators or satellite free-to-air. I mean, the situation is similar to all European countries. Our channel, just France 24, whether in English or in French, is still not allowed in China. So let me see. I hope that China will issue us a license to distribute in hotel, but I'm sure it would be a win-win decision. You know, foster dialogue means reciprocity. I think so. It's key of mutual understanding and trust.
Yeah, I appreciate your candor, Oscar. In Spain, what do you think? How have your organization, your media group, contributed to understanding of the two sides?
La receta es la misma de siempre. Well, our response has been the same as it always had. We have newspapers all over the country that have been going for over 100 years. So we've been informing the Spanish public for centuries now. And how have we been doing that? Well, truthful information and putting an emphasis on quality. And in the context of international relations, and specifically relations between Europe and China, as one of the guests mentioned earlier, it's extremely important to eliminate stereotypes. And this is something we take very seriously, and that's, again, part of delivering truthful information. Unfortunately, that task is currently much more difficult than it used to be, because there are large business conglomerates and even governments that seem determined to broadcast and publish fake news. So the way we try to combat that is by reinforcing the values that we've always held dear to us, and by again by cooperating with our trusted partners. It's the only way forward.
All right. Another issue I want to get to is really the fact that the line between news, journalism, and entertainment is blurring, Director Wang. You know, when I was in the United States, I can tell you that the most popular shows are always the nightly news talk shows. Are you worried that journalism is degrading from, you know, a serious news business, journalism business, into entertainment?
Well, to entertain is actually on the list of purposes for many media organizations, especially for society during lockdown. Entertainment plays a crucial role, is key to keeping spirits up. But I think we need to be aware that we need to be careful not to let ourselves become so addicted that entertainment value becomes the most important criterion for measuring the value of all contents. News should be treated as news by generators, distributors, and consumers. I think the blurring line between news and entertainment is becoming an issue for society in China and probably elsewhere as well, particularly for the younger audiences and some inexperienced digital editors as well, who oftentimes would mistake the popularity of an article, of a story, for credibility or accuracy or importance. For the younger generation, news dissemination and consumption is happening largely, like it or not, via social media platforms, which are yet to be effectively regulated. Measures are being taken by WeChat, YouTube, Facebook, etc., to identify hoax and misinformation. But I have to say, not much is being done. Not much is being done to help us distinguish professional news reporting from light entertainment, if we can put it that way.
Yeah, definitely a challenge over there. David, how do you look at the challenges presented by the blurring of lines between journalism and entertainment? What do you think?
It definitely is a challenge, and so I think we have to draw a very clear line between entertainment and information. Our main challenge and our main task is to inform our viewers, to inform our readers. So, but of course, news can also be a little bit entertaining. I mean, especially for younger audience, you need that different approach maybe sometimes. But of course, it has to be clear that information is first, and that there can't be any blurring line that makes a story just a little bit more entertaining, so our viewers will watch it. So in the end, it has to be clear. Information is what news television is all about. So and if this information is presented a little bit more entertaining, maybe that's okay. But it has to come down to the fact that it's information, that it has to be true, and that we can just get to a topic because we think our viewers might like it in the end. It's not what is important to us. Of course, it's important what our viewers think, but it shouldn't be the decision-making thing for our editors in the newsroom to decide to put on a piece just because they might think that the ratings will go up because of it.
Yeah, I think that we can definitely agree on. We need to say no to sensationalism. That is one thing many of us can agree on. I want to thank all of our guests for today's fascinating discussion. We may not agree on everything, but it's very important that we keep talking like we do right now. Hopefully, I will see many of you soon, this time in person, when COVID is over. Until then, be safe, take care.
Earlier this year, when China was experiencing the outbreak of the coronavirus in Wuhan, the whole world was watching and extending a helping hand, and Europe, of course, also extended lots of support. And later on, when the situation got rather tough in Europe, China also did not hesitate to provide assistance and support in various forms.
Indeed, and so to convey the significance of media cooperation between China and Europe and the long-term friendship between the two sides, they've issued a statement on strengthening media cooperation, so take a look.
The statement comprises of 3 parts. Firstly, to become responsible disseminators of public information and help the international community gather synergy. Secondly, to promote development of strategic dialogues and communications between media partners on both sides. And finally, to propose the establishment of a China-Europe Media Partnership Forum.
我支持中欧媒体互信对话，合作共赢。
I agree.
Agreed to promote mutual trust.
Open dialogue.
In-depth collaboration for a win-win cooperation.
To promote mutual trust.
Cooperation between.
我支持
To promote mutual trust, open dialogue, in-depth collaboration in a win-win cooperation between Europe and China media.
May China and European media partners continue to work together to solve challenges posed by the pandemic and others, for instance. And also, we hope that they can strengthen their partnership as part of the construction of a global community of shared future for humankind.
Well, this has been a really great event, so let's get everyone together for an online group photo. We are scattered all over the world, so everyone, let's join together and smile for the camera so we can have our photo.
2020欧洲伙伴媒体合作云论坛到此就告一段落了，非常感谢各位的参与，我们期待明年我们能够面对面的重逢。
That is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for your time, and we will see you next time.
Thank you very much.